Let me tell you something you already know, but you've been afraid to say out loud. When a man is cheating, you feel it, not because he tells you, not because you catch him in the act, but because his behavior changes, and no matter how much he tries to hide it, he can't. The energy shifts, the connection fades, and suddenly you're questioning your gut instead of questioning him. And that's what this is really about. This isn't just about infidelity, it's about truth. Your truth, your power, and the 5 signs no man can fake, mask, or outrun when he's betraying your trust. Because you deserve honesty, you deserve clarity, and most of all, you deserve to stop ignoring the red flags you already see. Let's start with what most people are too afraid to admit. When someone starts pulling away from you emotionally, it's not random, it doesn't just happen. It's not about stress, it's not about work. It's not about being tired. Emotional distance is never accidental, it's intentional, and if you're sitting there feeling like your partner has become a stranger, chances are you're right. Here's the truth. You don't go from being emotionally available to cold and distant overnight unless something inside of you has changed, or someone else has entered the picture. A man who's cheating won't come out and say it. No, he's not going to tell you, "Hey, I don't feel connected to you anymore," or "I'm giving my energy to someone else." Instead, he starts pulling back little by little. Conversations become surface level. He stops asking how your day was. He forgets the things that used to matter. You go to bed next to him, but you feel like you're sleeping next to a ghost. And here's the thing, you notice it, you feel it. But because you care, you make excuses for it. You tell yourself he's just stressed. You tell yourself it's just a phase. But deep down, your gut is screaming that something's off. Let's get something straight. Connection doesn't just disappear when someone loves you. People in love want to share. They want to be present. They want to make time for you, not find reasons to avoid you. And when that stops, when you start feeling like a roommate instead of a partner, it's not a glitch. It's not something to brush off. It's a message. Now, I know what you're thinking. You want to be understanding. You want to give the benefit of the doubt, and that's what makes you a good partner. But here's what makes you a powerful one, knowing when to stop overgiving and start observing. Because if you have to beg someone to show up emotionally, they've already left. Maybe not physically, but emotionally, they're gone. A man who cheats often starts by emotionally detaching because it makes it easier to justify what he's doing. He tells himself you're growing apart. He convinces himself the relationship is already fading, so he checks out. And he hopes you won't notice, or worse, he hopes you'll blame yourself. You start feeling confused. Insecure, you wonder what you did wrong, but let me tell you something right now. You didn't do anything wrong. His emotional absence is not your fault. His withdrawal is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of his truth, one he's not brave enough to say out loud. This is why you have to trust your instincts. When someone you love starts acting like they don't know you anymore, you don't need proof. You don't need receipts. What you need is self-respect. What you need is to recognize that love doesn't hide. Love doesn't go quiet, and love sure as hell doesn't make you feel invisible. If he's not showing up emotionally, if the intimacy is gone, if he's talking to you like a coworker instead of a partner, don't gaslight yourself into silence. Pay attention. That emotional distance, it's not just space. It's a signal. You deserve a relationship that's full of presence, effort, and truth, not guesswork, silence, and doubt. Emotional distance isn't subtle when you're tuned in. It's screaming at you. The question is, are you ready to stop ignoring it? Let's be clear. Privacy is healthy. Everyone deserves space, individuality, and moments that belong only to them. But when someone you've been open and connected with suddenly becomes secretive, that's not privacy anymore, it's hiding. And hiding is where deception lives. At the beginning, everything felt transparent. His phone wasn't locked like a vault. His schedule made sense. You didn't feel the need to question every moment because there was consistency. Trust wasn't something you had to force. It was built naturally, but now the rhythm has changed. Suddenly, his phone is always face down. He jumps when a notification comes through. He leaves the room to take a work call that somehow never ends. And when you ask even gently, there's tension, defensiveness. He says you're being paranoid, you're overreacting, but here's the thing, you're not. When someone's behavior shifts without a clear reason, especially in the areas where there was once openness, that's not intuition gone wild. That's your internal warning system doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Don't ignore it, because sudden secrecy, that's not random, it's a strategy. It's the first wall they build to keep you out while someone else is being let in. A man who is cheating starts to crave control over the narrative. He doesn't want you to see the full picture anymore because the full picture has cracks, so he creates shadows, he gets vague, his plans start to have gaps, and when you ask for clarity, he spins it like you're trying to control him. That's manipulation, when you're made to feel guilty for noticing things that don't add up. That's not love, that's deflection. Think about it. When did his phone go from being a casual object to a locked briefcase? When did the laughter between you turn into him scrolling with his back turned? When did his schedule stop making sense? These aren't isolated changes, they're connected. Because when someone's hiding something, their number one priority becomes protection. Not of you, but of their secret. And here's the painful part. You start to question yourself. Maybe you are too suspicious. Maybe you should back off. Maybe he really is just tired, stressed, overwhelmed. But deep down you know that relationships built on truth don't need this much guessing. Trust isn't supposed to feel like a puzzle you're trying to solve alone in the dark. You shouldn't have to shrink yourself to avoid conflict. You shouldn't have to ignore your intuition just to keep the peace. You're not crazy for noticing the shift. You're awake. You're tuned in, and the sooner you acknowledge that something doesn't feel right, the sooner you stop gaslighting yourself into silence. Secrecy doesn't come from nowhere. Men who cheat don't usually start by disappearing physically. They vanish emotionally, and then they start closing off access. They know that if you can see too much, you might ask the questions they're not ready to answer. So they hide behind passwords, canceled plans, and clever excuses. But here's what you need to know. The truth doesn't need to be protected. Love doesn't fear transparency. When someone is honest, they don't flinch when you ask questions. They don't panic when you walk into the room. They don't need to cover their tracks. So if you're suddenly being shut out of places you once were, well, come pay attention. That's not your imagination. That's your warning. And the question becomes, are you willing to stop pretending not to notice, because pretending it's fine won't make it real, and looking the other way won't bring back the connection, but standing in your truth? That will lead you exactly where you need to go. Let's talk about overcompensation, because when a man is cheating, and he knows deep down that he's breaking something sacred, he doesn't always go cold. In fact, sometimes he does the exact opposite. He becomes suspiciously attentive, extra nice, overly generous. He brings home gifts for no reason, says I love you a little too often, and while part of you wants to believe it's a sweet, renewed effort, another part of you knows it doesn't feel right. Here's what's really going on. Guilt is a powerful emotion, and when a man knows he's betraying you, he either runs from the guilt or he tries to cover it. That's where the overcompensation comes in. He wants to balance the scales. He thinks, if I'm doing something wrong, maybe if I do something really nice, she won't question it. Maybe I'll feel better about what I'm doing. So he gives you the thing you've always wanted. He takes you out more, he compliments you more, but what you start to notice is, it's not connected to any real emotional intimacy. It's transactional. Like he's feeding you crumbs of affection, hoping you won't notice the feast he's having somewhere else. It's the sudden change that gives it away, not the gift itself, the intention behind it. He wasn't doing this before. He wasn't showing up like this last month, and now it feels forced, it feels timed. It feels like a performance, not a connection, and the scariest part, you almost want to ignore the feeling. You almost want to accept the flowers and the dinners and the sweet words, because it feels good to be noticed, especially when you've been feeling neglected. But let's call it what it is. These gifts aren't about love. They're about guilt. They're an attempt to quiet the noise of his conscience. He thinks if he does just enough, you won't dig deeper, you won't ask questions, and he won't have to face what he's doing behind your back. And let's talk about the excuses too, because when the gifts don't feel like enough, the justifications start. You've been distant too. Work's been stressing me out. You're too emotional lately. And slowly, he starts building a story where somehow you're the reason things feel off. That's not an explanation. That's blame shifting. That's him trying to sleep at night without confronting the fact that he is the one who crossed the line. The worst part, you start questioning yourself. You wonder if you're being unfair. You tell yourself to appreciate the effort, and that's where you get stuck. And the cycle of confusion between being treated well on the surface and being betrayed in the shadows. But let me remind you of something important. Real love doesn't need to overcompensate. Real love shows up consistently. Real love doesn't rely on gifts to mask guilt. It relies on truth, on vulnerability, on the kind of honesty that doesn't need to buy its way out of trouble. So if it feels like he's doing too much too suddenly for no clear reason, don't just ask what he's doing, ask why. Ask yourself whether his actions are aligning with his behavior. Are you being seen, or are you being silenced with sweet gestures? Are you being loved, or are you being distracted? Because you deserve more than confusion wrapped in ribbon. You deserve clarity, not cover-ups. And the moment you start trusting what you feel instead of what he's trying to show you, that's the moment you take your power back. There's a shift that happens when a man starts cheating, and it's one of the most confusing things to experience. He changes, he evolves. Suddenly, he starts working out more, grooming differently, dressing sharper, maybe even pursuing new hobbies or interests. At first, it might look like growth. You might even cheer him on thinking, wow, he's finally taking care of himself again. But somewhere deep down, you know this transformation isn't for you. You feel it. Because it's not just change. It's disconnection disguised as self-improvement. And that's where the betrayal cuts deeper. It's not just about who he's becoming. It's about the fact that you're no longer part of the process. He starts spending more time in front of the mirror, but less time talking to you. He starts being protective over where he's going, what he's doing, who he's texting, and when you bring it up. He tells you it's just personal development, or that you're being too clingy. But you've been in this long enough to know the difference between someone growing with you and someone growing away from you. Because here's the raw truth. When a man is truly invested in a relationship, his changes are shared. You feel invited into his process. He tells you about his goals, includes you in his excitement, wants you to be proud of him, but when he's cheating, those changes are compartmentalized. They become secretive, separate, and closed off. And you feel that wall go up, even if he's smiling on the outside. And let's not pretend you don't notice. You do. You always do. But because you love him, you make space. You want to support him. You convince yourself that maybe this is just a season. Maybe it has nothing to do with you. But what no one tells you is that the most painful form of betrayal isn't physical. It's emotional. It's when someone stops choosing you and starts channeling their best into a version of life where you're no longer the focal point. He might start listening to different music, reading books he never cared about before, quoting new people, talking about new ideas, and suddenly there's a whole part of his life that has nothing to do with you anymore. And the truth is, it's not just new habits. It's a new audience. Someone else is seeing this version of him. Someone else is getting the attention, the energy, the spark. And here's what makes it worse. You start to feel like you're the one falling behind. You question whether you've stopped being interesting. You wonder if you're not enough anymore. You compare yourself to a version of him you don't even recognize. And that's the part that messes with your self-worth. But let me be very clear. His betrayal is not your failure. His secret life, his emotional exit, his redirection of energy, none of it is your fault. And your instincts telling you that these changes aren't about you. You're absolutely right, because people don't just reinvent themselves in silence unless they're trying to distance from the life they're already in. If he's changing and you're not included, that's not self-growth. That's a silent goodbye. So don't ignore the signs. Don't pretend that a man becoming someone new while erasing the person beside him is normal. Real love doesn't leave you behind. Real love grows and brings you with it. And if he's walking into his new identity without ever looking back at you, it's time to ask the question, is this still a partnership? Or are you just watching him become the man he wants to be for someone else? Because if you're no longer part of the vision, you deserve the truth, not confusion, not silence, and definitely not the lie that this is just a phase. There's a moment that happens in almost every relationship where something feels off, but you can't quite explain it. You can't prove it. There's no evidence, no text messages, no lipstick on a collar, but deep down in that quiet space where your intuition lives, you feel it. Your gut is screaming that something isn't right. That the man you're with isn't showing up the way he used to, that something, someone, has shifted the energy between you, and instead of trusting that feeling, you start doing what so many strong, loving, emotionally intelligent women do. You doubt yourself. You tell yourself you're being too sensitive, you try to rationalize it, maybe it's stress, maybe it's your imagination, maybe you need to try harder, and slowly, without even realizing it, you start gaslighting yourself. You stop trusting your instincts. You silence your inner voice in the name of love, in the name of keeping the peace, in the name of not being that woman. But here's the truth, that gut feeling, that shift you can't explain. It's real, it's not just anxiety, it's not just insecurity. It's your body and your heart working together to warn you, and you've felt it before in other parts of your life. You've known when a friend was lying. You've sensed when something at work didn't feel right. You've known when someone was smiling with their mouth, but not their eyes. So why would this be any different? When a man is cheating, your subconscious picks up on all the micro changes before your conscious mind can even articulate them. The way he doesn't look at you quite the same, the tone in his voice, the energy in the room when he walks in, the unspoken tension that wasn't there before, and all of it adds up to a feeling you can't shake. But because you don't want to believe it, because the truth hurts more than the silence, you start to convince yourself that you're wrong, and let me tell you, that's the betrayal that cuts the deepest. The betrayal of your own intuition. Because even if the cheating is real, what ends up doing the most damage is the fact that you saw it, you felt it, and you talked yourself out of believing it. You gave someone the benefit of the doubt when your own soul was whispering that something was broken. And that doesn't make you naive. That makes you human. That makes you someone who wanted to believe in love more than you wanted to believe in fear. But here's where everything changes, the moment you start listening to yourself again. The moment you stop waiting for proof and start honoring what you feel. The moment you choose your peace over his excuses. You are not crazy for sensing something is wrong. You are not insecure because you notice changes. You are not difficult for wanting honesty. You are awake. You are tuned in, and you are stronger than the silence that's been eating away at your trust. So if your gut is telling you he's hiding something, don't dismiss it. Don't bury it. Don't wait until it becomes undeniable, because you don't need a smoking gun to leave a situation that feels wrong. You just need to trust yourself enough to walk away before your soul gets too quiet to hear. That voice inside you, it knows, and the most powerful thing you can do is stop doubting it and start acting on it.